Guys, so I'm kind of thinking, and I think what I want to start doing is seeing how the 2019 STi compares to other vehicles. So since I have two Corvettes in the garage, I'd figured I'd start off by comparing my C6, since I drove that one for the longest amount of time. Now, of course, for me, each of the cars serves a different purpose. Initially, it was a daily driver, but once my son started growing up, coupe really isn't sufficient for what we wanted to do. So we do also own a 2013 GS350, and that one's driven by my wife. But what I really wanted is a car that my son can enjoy as well. So although he loves the Corvettes, both of them, I think he has a lot more fun in the STi, to tell you the truth, because of course he can ride in it. These two cars are almost unfair to compare, but the STi is actually pretty close as far as excitement level goes to the Corvette. I'm not gonna lie, the Corvette is definitely faster than the stock STi. I would be really interested to see, once I start upgrading it, how that gap starts narrowing further and further down. I mean, of course, you know, it's logical. It's a V8 versus a four-cylinder. What's really remarkable, though, is that you really don't need to invest that much money into either vehicle in order to make them something just ridiculous, as long as you're doing the work yourself. So I was watching recently this guy talk about how he builds STIs for customers and for race applications. And he was saying that with little modifications, the STI can be pushing 550 horsepower to the wheels, and to tell you the truth, it doesn't require really any internal modifications. Once you start getting into the 750 to 800 horsepower to the wheels, you're looking at forged internals, sleeves, and that kind of stuff, you know, the supporting mods. But what was really remarkable is that he mentioned that you can actually do 1,000 horsepower STIs, which is mind-boggling. I don't know if you guys have thought that through, but to push out 1,000 horsepower out of a four-cylinder 2.5 liter engine is just insane. I always have a different kind of fun. In the Corvette, the third gear is just ridiculous. You can start it off pretty low. You can be like 30 miles an hour and go above 100 miles an hour in third gear, and you get there really quick, believe me. In the STi, on the other hand, you have that unique sound that only the STi has. You have plenty of power, and you have the cornering capabilities that is super enjoyable. Another thing that I kind of find interesting is that the STi comes with 6-piston brakes, and the Corvette does not come with Brembo brakes stock. And it's always kind of interesting when looking at and comparing these two cars. The car that looks like it should have 6-piston Brembo brakes doesn't, and the one that doesn't look like it needs it actually does. The visibility, of course, is a lot less in the Corvette than in the STi. In the STi, you have a lot more visibility. Everywhere you look, you know exactly where you're at and everybody that's surrounding you. These cars were also bred for two different applications. The STi has a heritage and rallying, while in my opinion the Corvette is kind of confused. It is a sports car, but you can definitely tell that it has muscle car heritage in its genes. The STi compared to the Corvette, the only way I can describe the STi is like an aggressive sleeper. If you know what the STi is, of course you're going to know what it's capable of. But if you don't, it kind of catches you by surprise how loud it is, especially with this catback exhaust system that I have. You're looking, you're like, why does that car have 6-piston massive brakes that fill up the entire 19-inch wheel? And then when you take off, you're gone, which also doesn't seem too practical from a four-door sedan. With the Corvette, it's a different kind of feeling. You're driving it, and people are expecting you just to rip it every single time. And most of the time, you're just driving it normally. but every single person that drives by, you can see that they're just waiting for you to punch the gas and just do something stupid in it. Now, of course, I don't think most Corvettes are viewed that way. I think it's just the specific breed of people that drive them, like myself, that actually modify their Corvettes, doing upgrades, like, for example, the exhaust and lowering it where it looks aggressive, and of course accompanying that with like a wheel and tire package. The car just looks aggressive at that point. Other than that, the STi definitely feels a lot more comfortable than the Corvette when driving it. It's definitely meant to be driven as daily compared to the Corvette, which is, you can definitely tell, a weekend car. So with all that said, let's go jump into the Corvette and see what it's got. I'm here in my 2007 Corvette in an attempt to break the stereotype that only old guys drive this car. You probably picture these guys as the ones that buy diapers by the bulkload so that they can continuously polish their cars and never actually drive them. Well, I'm here to kind of prove that misconception wrong. The Corvette's always been a dream car of mine, and to tell you the truth, it doesn't get driven as much as it used to before. So right off the bat, I'm not helping my argument. When you really think about it, there's no other car that you can just buy that's just ready to be driven hard and actually has the performance to back it up. This particular car comes in the Le Mans Blue. I have it lowered on stock bolts. Currently I have the XIX Exotic X15 19-inch wheels on it, but I also have a set of Cray Corvette wheels. It has the Hurst short shifter, which feels great. I have the short shifter in my 2019 STi. It does not feel as mechanical like this one. I also have another short shifter in my 2003 Corvette, and that one is just brutal. I mean, you have to work for each gear change. This one is some happy median in the between the STi and the Corvette. Not too many other upgrades. Inside, I just replaced the radio with an in-dash player. I have the Borla exhaust and a Veraram intake. When you're driving a lowered Corvette, all regular cars, sedans, coupes, look like SUVs. There's a feeling that you're literally just gliding on the pavement, and if any real bump you come across, it's just gonna puncture through the floor and you're gonna get destroyed. Before buying this car, I had my 2003 Corvette that I really didn't want to use as a daily driver. I also had a 2007 550i BMW that was just crap. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I started thinking about which car am I gonna get, and my wife actually suggested, well, why don't you just get another little bit newer Corvette? She actually found this one and it was really reasonably priced, so I instantly went, test drove it, and traded my BMW in that same day. I drove this car as my daily driver for the next year before I decided that I'm actually considering keeping this car for the rest of my life, and I just kind of retired it and moved on to something different. Driving a lower Corvette as your daily driver is actually pretty fun. You always get the looks, you know, from everybody around you. Everybody always thinks you want to race. But overall, the feel of the car, you just feel like you're in some kind of supercar. And what I mean by that is when you look up front, most of the other cars, you don't even see the hood. This, you see the entire hood, you see the fenders, everything is just sticking out, which I can only compare to supercar driving. The Borla exhaust on it is not too loud, but you have that deep, throaty sound that you really like. There are, of course, inconveniences. Anytime there's a speed bump, you're just kind of praying to God that you're going to make it. But that's with most lowered cars. The absolute best part about this car is you can just downshift and be gone. To tell you the honest truth, I've always been kind of skeptical in its handling due to all the videos that I watched. And I bought a WRX and I started gaining a lot of confidence in corners. So to give you an example, there were corners where with the Corvette I would do about 35, 45, let's just go with 45 miles an hour. And with my WRX I was able to do 65, 75 miles an hour. Later on, after I gained all that confidence from driving the WRX, and I sat back inside the Corvette, I went through the same corners, and I realized that this car handles really well, surprisingly. We'll go through a couple of tight curves just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Before, I would never approach these curves this fast, but right now I definitely have the confidence. The only thing that I would definitely change, is just going to be one of my first upgrades once I start really upgrading this car, is the seats. The seats, they're not bucket seats by any means, and you kind of roll all over the place. You have to hold yourself in place while you're doing that. Another Corvette owner. So every person that I speak to that's, you know, usually into upgrading their cars, they're always looking for some Japanese car, but I'm here to tell them that the Corvette is actually an affordable option that comes with a lot more power right out the bat. Don't get me wrong, my next few cars that I am planning on getting is probably the 240SX, 240Z, and probably either the MK4 Super or the R32 Skyline. But I still think you should have a Corvette in your collection, or at least drive it at one point. People watch a lot of reviews online and they can't get past the cheap plastic and all this stuff. Usually the people that are complaining are these people that are driving like a 1990 240SX that every single body panel is in a different color. And to those people I say, well, who the heck cares? It's a light car. You're going to be replacing all the parts anyways with whatever's in your taste. So why does it matter that it comes with cheap plastic? Guess what? It's actually a pretty affordable car. Besides the LS1 engine, I think the engine that comes in the C6 Corvette is probably another very widely used swapped engine. I've recently started seeing videos of these pro drifters using the C6 Corvette and actually doing really well in all the drifting events. Most of the people that are doing the drifting as their starter car, really, they don't even have to do that many modifications. It's just a slight modification to the steering angle, and that's it. One thing whenever I look at buying a car, I always look at, of course, you know, it's got to be by my taste, but also I know I'm going to be upgrading these cars, so I look at how easy is this car to work on. And just because the Corvette has the Corvette name does not mean it's not easy to work on. In my opinion, this car is extremely easy to work on. I fully built my C5 Corvette, and if you don't believe me, I have 41 videos on my YouTube channel that you can go check out. But aside from all the engine upgrades I did myself, besides the tune, I also did all the suspension modifications and all the interior modifications. So pretty much a similar process is going to be happening with this Corvette. I'm going to redo the interior. It's going to have a more race feeling than the other one. And I'll do a very similar kind of modifications to the engine, make sure everything is running good, and then I'll supercharge it. And guess what? For somewhere around the lines of maybe $12,000, I'll have a fully built car, suspension, interior, and engine, producing somewhere around 750, 800 horsepower. Maybe a little bit more than 12,000. I think on my other Corvette, I came out to roughly about $10,000 on all the modifications I did. And that's converting from the leaf springs that this one and the other one come with into coilover, so independent suspensions. And then doing a full engine build, and then any other supporting mods, the cooling, and then of course the full interior that I did. With the supercharger, it may come out to somewhere around 15,000. But if you're not planning on going crazy like I do, and if you want to just do a supercharger and, for example, cam and exhaust, you're looking somewhere around, on a cheaper route, probably $5,000 to $6,000. And you'll still be producing some crazy numbers. Well over 500 horsepower, I can tell you that. I really hope that this has convinced you guys enough that the Corvette is definitely worth buying. I'm going to go and tear up the streets a little bit more before I go back home. A quick pull. You're never going to stop smiling when you start doing pulls like this. There's really nothing more, like I said, than the intake and the exhaust on this car. And it just screams whenever you do first, second gear pulls. Third gear, well, you better buckle up because it's going to take you for a ride.